welcome back to In the Studio with Ophelia. I am Ophelia, and thank you all very, very much for joining me today. Today we are going to take a look at my personal Lukas Watercolor Palette. This is the palette that I've kind of outfitted, and I'll walk you through that once we get started. This video is sponsored by jerrysartorama.com. As you all know, and if you've been here for a while, I get my supplies most often from jerrysartorama.com. Customer service is great, shipping is fast, prices are incredible, and I just find for me, they have the best materials at the best price so that my creativity is just seamless. I love to use quality products so that I'm not fighting my materials. But just a special thank you to Jerry's Artorama for sponsoring this video, because we are going to be taking a look at my watercolor palette and swatching my palette. This video is going to be quite lengthy. I swatch out my colors, we talk about the watercolors, and then we create a little bit of art just to kind of use my watercolor palette. So what I'm going to do is flip my camera around. Please get yourself comfortable, get yourself a drink, just kind of watch along, pull out your watercolor palette and play along. I will definitely leave all of the supplies linked in the description box so that you can have easy access to what I'm using. And so I will stop talking so that we can flip around and go ahead and get started. But thank you guys so very much for being here today. I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up. Definitely subscribe. I appreciate all of your comments, and just, you guys honestly are the greatest, and I appreciate you. So thank you for being here. Thank you to Jerry's Artorama for sponsoring this video, and let's go ahead and get into Lukas watercolor swatches. Okay, so there are so many brands of watercolor on the market today, and finding what is your favorite can be very overwhelming. It just happens to be trial and error, if you will. After working with things, you find that certain paints behave differently, and then after working with them for a while, you find which brand becomes your favorite out of all of the brands out there. I have been working with Lukas 1862 watercolors for a couple of years now, and I found that I just love these paints for their luminosity, for their price point, for their range of colors, their vibrancy. There's so many things that make me reach for these paints far more often than others that are out on the market, and it just happens to be a personal preference. It just ends up being what you enjoy, availability, budget, how the paints perform, and what you're going to be using them for. Lukas 1862 watercolor paints come in a range of 70 colors, and I've swatched them all here. I do honestly love this range of colors. I think it's 48 of these paints are single pigment, so your mixes are very vibrant, and they also come in, I'm gonna move this, they come in half pans, which is here, and then tubes, and with the tubes you can squeeze them into empty half pans to create the palette of colors that you wish to have. And so here is my palette. I've said before in our materials video, or in our supplies video, This particular palette is listed on the Jerry's Artorama website with 12 colors on the top and 12 colors on the bottom. And I've just added an additional row of colors here because the color range from here is just such a beautiful range of color. As I'm creating these swatches, I'm gonna speed this up as I really don't have a magical formula for putting color down. I just swatch the color on Fabriano Artistico watercolor paper, and this is cold press. Add a little bit of water at the end so that I can see how it fades, or the color range, and just some black ink to show me the opacity or transparency. I just like to spend some time mixing colors to actually see what kinds of mixes I can get with the colors on my palette. And I'm always, of course, this could turn into weeks and months of just playing around and exploring the different colors on your palette. It's just one of my favorite things to do to get to actually know the colors on my palette, or the colors that I've selected on my palette or for my palette. With this Travel Lukas palette, what I love is, of course, we've got mixing wells here. I can take out this middle section and have additional space to mix here as well as in here. If I'm on the go, of course, this can just slide back in to its original space. So I invite you and I encourage you to just spend some time with your watercolor palette, learning the colors that you've selected, so that you can get the most out of the colors that you actually have. And one of my favorite ways to do this sort of thing with color mixing and such like that, yes, you can do it in your sketchbook and spend some time with it that way. But I want to share just a super easy way that is non-intimidating for you to create and learn your colors. So I am going to go back to this piece of paper that I had taped down to my board. I'm going to use my same brush that I used for swatching. This is a number 8 round. And let's get ready to explore exactly what our paints can do while we learn the colors of our palette and while we learn how well our colors mix and such like that. So I've got my paper here glued down or taped down. This is Fabriano Artistico. It's a 140-pound cold press. And what I'm gonna do, and I guess I encourage you to spend some time mixing your colors so that you can kind of learn which colors work well together and which colors create some really cool mixes. Because with this, what I want to do is work relatively quickly before each section dries so that they kind of move and mix into their own. One reason why I love watercolors is that when you put them down, that's when the magic happens. And so I want to work fairly quickly on this so that my colors, once down, are allowed to do exactly what it is that they do. So on my piece of paper here, I'm just gonna, for instance, pick up some color, and I'm going to make a circle. And this does not have to be a perfect shape. I'm just going to get the shape in. And then, working pretty quickly before that one dries, I'm gonna pick up, so this one was gamboge. I'm going to pick up some alizarin crimson, and I'm gonna make myself a smaller circle here. And once I kind of get that shape in, I'm just gonna touch the circle above, and then one will of course bleed into the other. And I'm gonna bring you guys in just a bit closer so you can see exactly what I've done. On the next one, I'm gonna take some indigo, and while that one's wet, maybe this time I'll make myself a bit of a smaller circle. I'm gonna kind of get my shape the way that I want it, and then I'm just gonna touch the circle above, and that will bleed into this one. A lot of times I try not to manipulate it too much, as I just want the watercolors to do what they do. So I'm gonna move on to my next one. Maybe this time I'll make a little bit bigger. And just when I get that shape pretty close to filled in, I'm just gonna go up and touch that area and let them do their thing. And what I like is to vary the width of my shapes so that not each one looks exactly alike. Then I'm gonna pick up a different color. This is yellow green. And then just kind of touch. And if you find that some of them aren't actually moving the way that you want, I can like manipulate it just a bit. But usually I just leave them alone and they will eventually do what it is that they're going to do. Extend this shape a tiny bit. And let's do some, this is indigo. You know what? I'm gonna switch it very quickly because I wanna get some of this turquoise. And I'm gonna make my shape. And then just slightly touch the shape above. And this time some magenta. And then again, just want to slightly touch it. Some Indian yellow here. And maybe I'll make this one a bit bigger. And some ultramarine. And I've got that row done. So I'm gonna scoot over and maybe do 3 rows. So I started with yellow. I think I'm gonna start with some purple here. And maybe this time I'll start down a little bit and let's just see. Over here, where I've put this white down, the turquoise blended in and the red blended in, but they kind of stopped, and which it's totally fine, except I'm gonna kind of manipulate and smush things around a bit. So I'm gonna pick up a bit more white and just work my way in to this circle a bit. And then I'm gonna pick up some of that alizarin and just right down here at the bottom, touch. And a bit more of that turquoise. And down here a bit. Clean off my brush a little bit. Move this around. And I'm going to give that alizarin a bit more down here at the bottom. And so I have the hardest time just leaving it alone, letting it do what it's gonna do. So I'm gonna pick up that and leave it alone. Now this will, of course, give me the opportunity to kind of play around with my colors, see what my colors will do and once they're blended. And I'm gonna show you here where I've created one, and I've created one here, and you can definitely take yourself a mat, and you know, I've got here a white one, and I will of course leave them linked below as to which mats I found. These just make such a neat gift, if you will, for friends. It's an easy, non-intimidating way to just kind of create some things or create a piece of artwork while you're learning your colors. So here is a white mat. Here is, let's flip it this way, one that's a black mat. And then I always will take, and I should have pulled it out first, but I'll show you what I mean. I've got myself here an Acurit. It's just like a black waterproof technical pen. And I'm just gonna add some finishing touches to this and show you what these will look like as a finished piece. Okay, so I've zoomed in here. I've got the red Acurit pen with it's a 0.5 tip, and I'm just going around the circles. Of course, you can bring in colored pencil to deepen in the shapes that you've created, but I'm just like adding dots around each one of the circle shapes, and literally you can be as free as you want to do whatever it is that you want with your pen, to just add some finishing touches and finish this guy off. So here is the finished piece with a mat, and thank you guys so very much for watching such a long and chatty video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.